Okay, I got cut off. So part 2. So we've just done A. So I was saying how we converted my gallons into quarts, right? So I said my 5 times 4 to get 20 quarts, and then I added back my 3 quarts it had to get all together my 5 gallons and 3 quarts should be 23 quarts, right? Then for B, we're changing our, we have 4 feet and 11 inches, and it's asking us how many all inches. So I need to change my feet to inches, right? So I know that there is 12 inches in 1 foot, so I did 4 times 12 to get 48. So then I can see I added my 48 back to my 11 to get a total of 59. Then for C, I'm changing, I have 5 pounds and 30 ounces, and it wants my answer in all ounces. So I'm going to change my 5 pounds to ounces, right? I know 1 pound equals 16 ounces, so I did 5 times 16 to get 80, and I added 80 and 13 together to get 93 ounces all together. Then this one, it's quarts and pints, right? So we have 3 quarts and 2 pints, and it's asking us all in pints. So I'm thinking about just that 1 quart, right? So my quart has how many pints? 2. So I can see 3 times 2 equals 6, and I'm adding that back to get a total of 8. And then for 10, Max has 4/5 quarts of apple juice. He drinks half quart of it. How much apple juice does he have left? So this is a simple subtraction problem. And again, with fractions, I have to find a common denominator. So I just saw this one pretty easily. I'm sure you did too. That is a common denominator of 10. So I did 8 tenths minus 5 tenths to get 3 tenths. For 11, a piece of wood is 5 foot long. Juan used 3/4 of it, right, to make a shelf. And so what is the length that he had left? So I made a bar model for this one. We had a total of 5 foot, right? And if we cut it into 4 pieces, I can see that each of them should be worth 1 1/4, right? Equally 1 1/4. So he used 3/4 of it, right? So this is gone. This is what he made for his shelf. So the question's asking us what's left. Well, we already kind of did the math, right? It should be just 1 1/4 is what he had left. And then for 12, we're arranging all of these in increasing order. So for all of these, I had to get them in the same measurement so I could compare them, right? So for A, I see that I have a pound, ounces, pound. So I actually went ahead and changed all of them to over 16. Like just like in this one, you could have converted it a different way if you wanted to, but that's how I converted mine. So I did 3/4 converted to 12/16. 11 ounces, I did 11 over 16, right? Because it would be ounces is 16. Then I did 13 over 16, and that's how I was able to put them in order. I could easily see from that which is the smallest and the biggest. Then for B, I can see I have quart, gallon, and quart. So I went ahead and just changed them all to quarts. So 16 quarts stay the same. 5.5 gallon, I could see that it would be 6 quarts, right? Because 1 gallon is 4. So then half would just be 2. So 4 and 2 is 6. That's how I thought about that. And then this one was already in quarts as well. So then now I'm just comparing 16, 6, and 10. And I can easily put them in order, right? Then for C, I see I have inches, yards, and feet. So I know I'm just going to change all of these into inches so I can see them as the same thing and put them in the correct order. So the first one, already in inches, easy enough. For this one, I'm changing my 1 yard into 36, right? Because I do know 1 yard is 36 inches. And then I want to know 2/3 of my 36. Remember, of means times, so that's how I got 24 for the 2/3 part, and I added those together, right? Then for the last one, 3 1/6 feet. I know that 1 foot is 12 inches, so I did 3 times 12 would be 36, right? Then again, I brought out that fraction and did 1/6 times 12 because I want to know what's 1/6 of multiplication. My 12 inches, I got 2, so 36 and then plus 2 would be 38, and I could easily put them in order after that, right? You can easily see 39 inches, 60 inches, and 38 inches, which one goes where. For 13, we know our formula for both A and B is base times height divided by 2. So this one is our right triangle. Remember that symbol means it's 90 degrees, right? And it has a straight height, so we can definitely use that height. So 15 times 8 is 120, then split it in half, right? Because every triangle is half of the area of a parallelogram, right? For this one, they had to give us the height, because if they had given us this side, we wouldn't have been able to use it, right? Because our height has to be from the base to the very height. And see, this one, since it's slanted, if you had moved it up, it would actually be longer than the height, right? So remember, we talked about this in class too. Make sure we don't ever get tricked by that if they give us extra numbers. So I did my base and my height. Remember, this one was able to have a height because it was already straight. So this one, they had to give it to us. So base times height, which would be 8 times 12. Then I split it in half to get 48. Okay, so for 14, a school auditorium has 200 seats. 156 of them are occupied or taken up. What percent of the seats are occupied? So you could have done a bar model if you wanted to. I just went ahead and put it as a fraction. I know 156 are taken up out of, remember, we can kind of say out of when we're writing our fraction, out of their total 200 seats. I went ahead and simplified that down just so it'd be easier numbers for me. And then since the problem asked us for a percentage, I made my fraction into my fraction into a division problem, so then I could easily see that it would be 78%, right? So I had got my fraction down to where it's more simple numbers. Then I'm trying to see how many times can 50 go into 39, and remember, bring up that decimal. And then if I can see it's 78 hundredths, we already know we can simply change that to a percent, right? Because it's out of 100, and percent can mean out of 100. 15 was our mistake, right? I originally put 85%. Well, that's wrong first, because it asked us what she saved, and she saved 15%, right? And the problem asked us to put it in a fraction. So if I was changing my 15%, I put 15 over 100, then divided it by 5 to get it down, and got 3/20. So a lot of you guys have already told me the mistake. Good job. Just testing you. And then on the back, we have our last few problems. Okay, so a library has 1,200 books. 780 books are for children, and the rest are for adults. What percentage of the books are for adults? So I went ahead and made a bar model. I had 1,200 or 1,200 books, right? I had that many books, and it told us 780 are children, so then I can easily figure out what this one is by subtracting, right? I subtracted these two numbers, so this one has to be 420, and it asks us says what percentage of the books are for adults. So I'm just changing this to a percentage, right? So first thing when we're doing percentages, go ahead and change it to a fraction, right? So we have 420 adults out of our total. So remember, I think some of us are getting confused and thinking that if their bottom number isn't out of 100, maybe that shouldn't be a percentage, because percentage can mean out of 100. But remember, percentage can also just mean out of the total. So we have 420 out of our total, and we're going to convert our answer to a percentage that way. So 420 out of our total, and I simplified it down so I can get easier numbers. So I divided each of them by 20 to get 21 over 60. And then I'm trying to see how many times can 60 go into 21. And I got 0.35 or 35 hundredths, right? So I can easily change it to 35%. So remember, when you get a fraction, you can go ahead and change it to like a division problem to get to that percentage. So don't stress out if it's not 100 under here. Some of us had some questions about that. It's still out of its total, right? We're trying to find the percentage of the 1,200 books, right? Okay, so then for 17, So she bought a painting for $450 and sold a profit of 12%. That means she made the whatever it is and 12% more, right? So first we need to find what 12% is. So I wrote this one out. I want to know what 12% of 450 is. So I did the problem. What does of mean? Multiplication, right? So I just did my multiplication problem and I saw that she made $54 profit, right? So we have to add that back to what the original cost was. So the original cost for the painting was $450, and I added back her 12%, right? So she made $54. So her selling price, because that's the problem asked what the selling price was, would be $504. And then for 90 children took part in a school choir. 36 of them are girls. What percent of the children are boys? So I made a quick bar model. We had all the children are 90, right? It has said 90 children. 36 were girls, so I could easily figure out there's 54 boys. And it's asking us to convert the boys to a fraction. So again, to a percentage. So again, first step is put it into a fraction. So I have 54 boys out of my total of 90, right? So then I do a division problem and I can easily see be 0.6 or point, I always add a 0 so I can see it's 60%, right? So I got my fraction, then I did my division problem to see it as a decimal, and then I can easily convert that to my percentage, right? Because it's in the hundredths place, right? And if you didn't want to add that a 0, you could see that 0.6 would be what? 6/10, right? And I could easily add a 0 to each, and I can see it'd be 60 out of 100 or 60%. That's a good way to think about it. Then we have 19 in a 500 gram bag of nuts. 200 of them, 200 grams are cashews. What percent of mixed nuts are not cashews? So I went ahead and drew out that one as well. So we have our 500, I'll put it grams, right? And we know 200 are cashews, so I figured out that this one, by doing subtraction, our other would be 300, right? So it says what percentage of mixed nuts are not cashews. So I'm trying to think of my other. So I put my other 300 out of the total of 500. I did my simplifying trick where I could just eliminate those zeros. Then so I could put it into a fraction. Then I'm doing it into a division problem, right, with our decimals. Then I could easily see it's 60% as well. So remember, don't get confused or upset if it does not out of 100. It doesn't necessarily always mean out of 100. It can also just mean out of the total. So out of the 500 nuts, 60% of that would be other. For 20, a store owner bought 50 bicycles for $7,000. He sold all of them at a profit of 35%. So he made a profit on all of them for 35%. How much profit did he make for each bicycle? So for this one, I'm trying to find 35% of my 7,000. So I want to know how much profit, right? So I did 7,000 times, I just converted that quickly as a decimal, 0.35. So that's his total profit once I did all of my math, right? So he got his profit, but be careful because it asked us how much profit did he make from each bike. So even though we have our profit, we're going to split it into 50, right? Because for each bike, it would be 49. So I hope that helped. Remember, percentage can definitely mean out of 100, but it also is just meaning out of the total, right? So for when we have our word problems, be sure not to get confused. We always convert it into a fraction and then a division problem, and then convert it straight to our percentage. Hope that helps, guys. Bye.